Hello everyone, we're a group of 5 students and for this final presentation we chose Singapore. Throughout this course we have studied Japan, South Korea and the Philippines, each representing a different path to development. Singapore stood out to us because it's the most paradoxical case of all. No natural resources, no agricultural land, expelled from its own federation in 1965 and yet today the fourth ranked financial center in the world. We wanted to understand not just how that happened, but why Singapore still holds that position today. So, rather than giving a broad overview, we chose to focus specifically on the banking system, as a concrete example of what makes Singapore's success both real and durable. The story of modern Singapore does not begin in 1965. It begins in 1819 when a British East India Company agent named Stamford Raffles landed on a sparsely populated island of around 1,000 inhabitants at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula. Raffles signed a treaty with the local sultan, raised the Union Jack, and declared Singapore a free port, open to ships of all nations, with no duties, no discrimination. Within a year, the population had grown to over 5,000. Within a few decades, Singapore had become the most strategically important British colony east of India, a free trade hub between China, India, and Europe. This is the deep origin of Singapore's identity. Long before Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore was already an open port, a place where capital, goods, and people moved freely. 2 centuries later, that DNA is still there, and it is what makes Singapore one of the most powerful financial centers in the world today.
So let me now talk about the bridge between the crises until the reinvention. So the path from colonial power to financial power was not that smooth. Singapore fell to Japan in February 1942. And after the war, it tried to merge with Malaysia in 1963. But the experiment lasted only 2 years. And sort of racial riots in 1964, combined with deep political disagreements, such as Lee Kuan Yew, who was pushing for racial equality, while Kuala Lumpur wanted to preserve Malay privileges, made this coexistence impossible. On August 1965, Singapore was expelled. This expiration was largely negotiated by Goh Keng Swee, Singapore's finance minister, and the real economic architect of the modern Singapore. So this man was this man who designed the strategies that turn a city without resources, without army, and surrendered by hostile neighbors into an economic success. So Lee Kuan Yew and his planners wanted Singapore to become the Zurich of the East, a discrete, neutral, rule-based financial center serving Asia the way Switzerland served Europe. And after 1979, financial and business services replaced manufacturing as the engine of growth, expanding 9.9% per year. By 1993, Singapore was already the world's 4th largest foreign exchange market, behind only London, New York, and Tokyo. So Raffles declared Singapore a free port in 1819, which was open to all nations, no duties, no discrimination. And 2 centuries later, the same logic drives the modern banking system, a state that removes barriers, attracts foreign capital, and uses openness and its competitive weapon. So now let's do a big zoom on the banking system. So to understand why Singapore is a financial power today, you have to start with one decision taken in 1968. Singapore charged a 45% withholding tax on interest paid to non-residents, making offshore banking totally impossible. So the government abolished it and replaced it with fiscal incentives to attract foreign banks. This created the Asian dollar market, which grew from 54.5 billion in 1980 to 350 billion in 1992. In 1971, the Monetary Authority of Singapore was created. So the country's central bank and financial regulator combined into a single institution. And MAS actively promotes the financial sector while policing it strictly. It means that it publishes targets for asset growth, approves license for new banks and family offices, and intervenes when needed. And this combination of openness and discipline is what foreign capital trusts. The clearest example is DBS. So founded in 1868, it is today the largest bank in Southern Asia, with total assets of about $500 billion. And in 2024, it reported a net profit of about $11 billion and a return on equity of 18%, one of the highest among developed market banks. And it serves 19 million customers across 19 markets and manages over a third of Singapore's family offices. The most striking feature today is wealth management. In 2024, total assets under management crossed 6 trillion Singapore dollar, and which is about 4.4 trillion US dollar, which growing 12% in a single year. The number of single family offices has gone from 400 in 2020 to over 2,000 in 2024, a five-fold increase in 4 years. So when billionaires move money out of Hong Kong, they move it to Singapore. And we can say it today, it's really the Switzerland of Asia.
Many cities have tried to become financial hubs, but few have managed to stay at the top for decades. Singapore's success rests on three main factors. First, the rule of law. According to MAS, wealth owners choose Singapore because of its strong legal system and predictable regulations. In a world where political uncertainty is increasing, this stability is a major advantage. Second, Singapore benefits from its geopolitical neutrality. It trades around $34 billion with China and $43 billion with the United States, while maintaining good relations with both countries. This makes it a trusted destination for international capital. Third, the government continues to actively support the financial sector through MAS. In 2024, it launched new initiatives to attract investment and strengthen Singapore's position in areas such as fintech, ESG investing, and digital assets. To conclude, Singapore is described as an Asian tiger or a developmental state, but behind there is something very concrete, a banking system managing around $4.4 trillion US in assets and more than 2,000 family offices serving some of the world's wealthiest families. Combined with the over 50 years of experience from MAS, this explains why Singapore remains one of the world's leading financial centers today and why it is likely to remain one in the future.